Simone Weil was a philosopher, mystic and political activist whose life was marked by an intense commitment to truth and justice. She was born in 1909 in France and died in 1943 at the age of 34, a victim of self-imposed suffering that some interpret as an act of martyrdom. Weil's thought combined elements of radical political engagement, deep spirituality, and an unflinching demand for authenticity. She worked in factories to understand the plight of laborers, fought in the Spanish Civil War despite her frail health, and later embraced an almost ascetic devotion to the suffering of others. Her refusal to eat more than what was available to those under Nazi occupation contributed to her early death. She saw affliction as a path to understanding and solidarity, and she viewed truth as something that demanded a total, almost self-destructive commitment. Her works, including Gravity and Grace and The Need for Roots, continue to influence thinkers across political and religious spectrums. What draws you to Weil? Her philosophy, her life, or her radical approach to truth? To embrace truth is to confront the void. This striking and thought-provoking idea, articulated by Simone Weil, provides a crucial lens for understanding the life and philosophy of one of the most remarkable, contentious, and intellectually brilliant figures of the 20th century. But who was this woman who, despite her short yet intense life, challenged every social and philosophical norm? To this day, many still seek to unravel the mystery of this French thinker who passed away at the young age of 34, a figure embodying both unshakable consistency and a paradox of contradictions. She was born into wealth but chose to live in poverty, possessed beauty yet deliberately downplayed it, was a revolutionary who later turned to reform, a pacifist who took up the fight for freedom, and a Jew who found deep meaning in Christianity. Before we explore her philosophical insights, let's first take a brief look at her life. Simone was born on February 3, 1909, in Paris, into an intellectually rich and well-off Jewish family. Her parents, who were agnostic, provided a secular upbringing for their children. She had an older brother, André, who would go on to be one of the most influential mathematicians of the century, making groundbreaking contributions to number theory and algebraic geometry. Their father, Bernard, was a successful physician, while their mother, Salome, managed the household. Both played a significant role in shaping Simone's intellectual development. From an early age, she exhibited an exceptional intellect and a strong-willed personality. However, she was often physically frail, prone to illness, and demonstrated a deeply uncompromising nature even as a child. After suffering from severe illnesses at the ages of 3 and 5, her parents took strict precautions to shield her from infections, even forbidding her from having physical contact with other children. This early isolation contributed to her later detachment from social interaction. During her high school years, she attended one of Paris's most prestigious schools, earning the nickname the categorical imperative in a skirt due to her unyielding moral principles and rigid ethical convictions. In 1928, she enrolled in a philosophy program at a university in Paris, completing her thesis on science and perception in Descartes. Shortly after, she began teaching philosophy at various high schools in the French provinces. However, alongside her academic pursuits, she became increasingly involved in social and political causes. In the early 1930s, she actively supported labor and union movements, took part in strikes, and donated portions of her salary to assist the unemployed and impoverished. This engagement led her to explore Marxist ideas, though she remained fiercely independent in her thinking, eventually distancing herself from the ideology. She was highly critical of the mechanization of labor and the bureaucratic structures of communist organizations. In 1934, she took a break from teaching to work in several industrial plants, including Renault, as a factory laborer. This first-hand experience with the hardships of the working class deepened her critique of industrialization and the alienation of labor. Meanwhile, her interest in spirituality and religion grew, drawing her closer to Christianity. A pivotal moment occurred in 1935 when, during a trip to Portugal, she witnessed a religious procession of impoverished fishermen. This profoundly moving experience, which she described as nearly mystical, led her to perceive Christianity as the faith of the downtrodden and marginalized, a notion she would later explore in greater depth. With the Nazi invasion of France in 1940, her family sought refuge in Marseille and later fled to the United States. However, Shawn chose to return to Europe, joining Free France in London. There, she contributed to the French government in exile, drafting plans for the resistance. Her already fragile health deteriorated rapidly due to the extreme privations she imposed upon herself as an act of solidarity with the suffering French population. On August 24, 1943, she passed away in Ashford, Kent, in a sanatorium where she was being treated for tuberculosis. Doctors attributed her death to severe malnutrition and physical exhaustion, the consequences of her uncompromising devotion to her ideals. She was laid to rest in Bybrook Cemetery near Ashford. Initially, her passing attracted little attention, but her legacy was revived posthumously, largely thanks to philosopher Albert Camus, who recognized in her a kindred spirit both intellectually and spiritually. Camus played a significant role in bringing her writings to the public, many of which were published only after her death. Though she lived just a few decades, her body of work is extensive and deeply influential. Her most notable writings include Gravity and Grace, a collection of spiritual reflections; Waiting for God, which comprises letters and meditations on divinity; The Need for Roots, an exploration of fundamental human necessities; and The Working Class Condition, a powerful analysis of labor struggles. Shawn dedicated her life to exposing the mechanisms of power and oppression. She believed that all systems of authority were inherently corrupting and dehumanizing. To her, the real enemy was not just fascism or communism, but any ideology that reduced human beings to mere instruments within a societal machine. While she acknowledged Marxist critiques of capitalism, she rejected its ultimate conclusions, arguing that it perpetuated the same structures of control and subjugation under a different guise. In her view, the sacredness of a person did not stem from individual rights or attributes, but from the sheer fact of existence itself. She went so far as to describe politics as a bleak, joyless affair. For Shawn, true social transformation could not be imposed from above. It had to stem from a fundamental ethical and spiritual renewal within individuals. Her rebellion was not only political, but also deeply personal and spiritual. Though she was profoundly drawn to Christianity, she refused formal conversion, criticizing the Church for becoming an institution of power. To her, Christ was not the figurehead of a religious organization, but a universal symbol of self-sacrifice and love for humanity. To define Christianity as the religion of the oppressed, in her view, meant recognizing it as a faith that speaks first and foremost to those who suffer, the poor, the outcasts, and the marginalized. This belief was rooted in the Gospel's message, where Jesus aligns himself with the weak and preaches compassion and justice for the excluded. In this context, the poor in spirit represent those who embrace their vulnerability and find meaning beyond material wealth. Shawn's spirituality was not an escape from reality, but was deeply anchored in tangible human experiences, suffering, and struggle. She rejected the privileges of her bourgeois upbringing, choosing instead to share in the hardships of society's most vulnerable. At the heart of her philosophy lay a crucial question: What is the meaning of human existence? Sean believed that people exist in a constant tension between belonging and alienation. On one hand, individuals seek connection through culture and community. On the other, such ties can become oppressive, stifling true freedom. Her answer to this paradox was the idea of spiritual rootedness, a connection to truth and goodness that transcends political and material constructs. In prelude to a declaration of duties toward mankind, she proposed a radical rethinking of societal structures, shifting the focus from individual rights, often wielded as instruments of power, to a framework of obligations toward others. In her view, genuine social justice could only arise from a foundation of mutual respect and shared responsibility. To her, poverty and hunger were not merely economic problems, but existential crises that stripped people of dignity and belonging. Her final years were marked by her participation in the French Resistance and the steady decline of her health. Even in the face of death, she refused to abandon her principles, choosing to endure the same hardships as her compatriots under Nazi rule. To some, her self-imposed suffering may seem extreme, but for her it was the only way to fully embody her beliefs. As Albert Camus once wrote, what struck him most about her was the absolute alignment between her thoughts and her life. Indeed, her brief but intense existence serves as a testament to unwavering integrity and sacrifice, a powerful call to resist injustice and to pursue truth at all costs. Can her philosophy inspire us today? Perhaps in its ability to remind us that truth is rarely comfortable, yet it remains the only path.